just one way to know it's worth when we celebrate the world. And celebrate the world. Come on and celebrate the world.
Good morning, everyone. My record-setting journey of becoming the youngest person to fly around the world and still holding the Guinness World Record for that, but also having the opportunity to share with you some of the things we're preparing for in the future. Before we get into the presentation, I'd first and foremost like to thank Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, Mr. Morimoto, Mr. Yoshida as well, and Mr. Stan Yokoi for making this possible. Because anything is possible. If you think of it, you can do it. And for me, I grew up from very humble beginnings. I was originally born in Kingston, Jamaica, left at the age of 6, grew up in Miami. At the time, I was a high school football star, 197 pounds, 3% body fat, ran a 4.3 in the 40. I had a full scholarship to attend the University of Florida. Until one day, I met an individual, and his name is Captain Gary Robinson. I was in a store, and Captain Robinson walked up to me out of the blue and said, "Hey son, have you ever thought about becoming a pilot?" And I looked at him and I told him I didn't think I was smart enough to fly an airplane. But then I asked him how much money he made. And after he answered the question of how much money he made, I took an interest in aviation. Little did I know interest would turn into passion. And thanks to this gentleman, I'm able to stand in front of you today. Simply because of mentorship. And someone took the time out, the same way Mitsubishi is, the same way Cradle of Aviation is right now, to expose me to something different in my life. When I was introduced to aviation, I said to myself, man, I don't know if I can do this. But I was just so passionate about it, and I wanted to fly, and I wanted to travel to different places. And could you believe in Miami we have this thing called signing day where you announce which football team you'll continue to play football with at the collegiate level. And when that day came, I turned down the scholarship to the University of Florida and said I wanted to become a pilot. Because I realized something. It wasn't about what my friends wanted me to do. It wasn't about what my coaches wanted me to do. It was about what Barrington wanted to do with his life. And I made the decision that I wanted to become a pilot. Knew nothing about setting any world records. I wanted to do something that involved science and math. And when I made that decision, quite honestly, it was one of the most challenging decisions I've ever made in my life. Guys I played football with, they thought there was something wrong with me. They couldn't believe I turned down the scholarship. My coaches, they absolutely couldn't believe I turned it down. And all the girls I played in front of, and they had my jersey number on their shirts and everything, no longer wanted to talk to Barrington Irving. But I was happy with the decision I made. And young people, you guys are going to be exposed to so many different things in your lives. It's very important for you to realize that sometimes you're the only one that can make that decision and live with it and move forward. And when I made the decision that I wanted to become a pilot, it was one of the most challenging decisions in my life. So after doing that, I went out, I started to volunteer and get involved in a number of different things. And I just started to share my story. One of the things my mentor, Captain Robinson, taught me, he said, Barrington, you have to be able to give back. And I said, what do you mean to give back? I don't have any money to give to anyone. He said, no, give time, give knowledge, give experience. So everyone knows to fly around the world, what's the first thing you need? An airplane. The aircraft behind me cost $650,000. How is a poor kid from Miami able to afford an aircraft that costs $650,000 to fly around the world? No one wanted to rent me a plane. No one wanted to lease me an aircraft or even let me borrow one. So I decided one day that I was going to go out, rent a vehicle, drive 12 hours all the way from Miami to Mobile, Alabama, rented a car, put gas in it, bought a 12-inch sub, 6 inches for the first half of the day, 6 inches for the second half of the day. Brought plenty of deodorant with me because I couldn't afford to stay in a hotel or a motel. And I showed up at one of the largest general aviation engine manufacturers in the world. And I said, "Hi, my name is Barrington Irving. I'd like to see if your engine is good enough for my airplane." I didn't even own an airplane. They fell for it. They brought me in. They gave me a tour of the facility. They showed me how this engine was constructed, the warranties, and all the different things. But I knew I needed to get to the decision maker of the company. So I called the CEO by his first name and I said, "Is Brian here?" He said, "Which Brian?" I said, "Brian who runs the company." They say, "You know Brian?" I said, yeah, I met Brian a couple times at air shows and conventions and so forth. Never met the guy before in my life. Brian walks into the room, realizes I tricked his whole staff, and he said he had 5 minutes shoot. Within those 5 minutes, I was honest with Brian. I told him who I was, where I was from, what I was trying to do, and exactly why I was trying to do it. And Brian just simply said, "Thank you for coming." I drove all the way back home to Miami with plenty of deodorant. Got a phone call a few weeks later, and it was Brian. Brian said, "You know, normally we don't sponsor engines for this kind of thing. But if you had the guts to come and find me, I believe you can find yourself around the world." And he sponsored me that engine worth $83,000 right there on the side. After the engine was sponsored, I then received the cockpit system for another $70,000. Other parts, I was able to cut the cost of the aircraft in half, finance the rest of it, and I flew out of Oregon with that airplane that you see behind me. Getting the airplane was one thing. Preparation was another. You see, when I did the flight around the world, there were a number of things that weren't in place. I'll never forget on March 23rd, 2007, when I departed out of Miami, there was about a good 5,000 people there. CNN was there, the Today Show was there, all these different media outlets. And no one knew a few things about me at that time. Number one, that aircraft didn't have any de-icing on its wings. So flying in and out of icing conditions, I had no way to shed the ice off or melt the ice off of my wings. In addition to that, the weather radar in the aircraft only worked in the United States. So I would fly around different thunderstorms, becoming my own meteorologist in international airspace, guessing, well, which way should I take around the storm? In addition to that, I think it's probably the funniest thing ever, is while doing these interviews and while watching all the different signs that said, "Go, Barrington, go," you know how much money I had in my pocket? I only had $30 in my pocket. And I'm looking at all the signs and saying to myself, where am I going? I only have $30 in my pocket. I don't even have enough money to put gas in my aircraft. But I learned something valuable on that day. See, when I departed out of Miami, people began to believe that this can be accomplished. Miami fundraised close to $100,000 the day that I left. And the further I kept on going, the more money that was contributed towards the flight. And in addition to that, the more students logged on in order to track the flight. Now let's talk about the flight. And let's talk about some of the challenges I had to overcome. It's a journey that took me 97 days to fly solo around the world. The youngest person before me to fly solo around the world was 37 years of age, and I was able to do it at the age of 23. This wasn't a flight where I did it by myself. I worked with a flight planning team. I worked with a number of individuals, over 50 individuals, in order to coordinate this flight properly. I also was able to set 2 world records of not only being the youngest person to fly around the world, but also the first black man to ever accomplish the feat. Flying around the world was very challenging. Not only did I have to stay ahead of the aircraft, but in addition to that, I had to learn different cultures, meet different people. So for example, one of the most embarrassing moments I had while flying around the world was when I was in an Italian restaurant. And I had a salad, and they asked me what kind of dressing would I like on my salad. And of course, me being the genius that I thought I was, I said, oh, I would like Italian dressing. There's no such thing as Italian dressing in Italy. The whole restaurant stopped and looked at me, and they immediately knew I wasn't a local person at all. There were funny moments, and there were moments where I had near tragedy. What you see behind me is a sandstorm. And I encountered this sandstorm while flying from Luxor, Egypt to Dubai, and the storm occurred over Saudi Arabia. I was flying my aircraft at 17,000 feet. 17,000 feet. I went from a clear blue skies to next thing you know, this wall of sand dead ahead. And I fly into it. Of course, I'm flying over Saudi Arabia. It's not as if I can say, oh, let me land here, wait for the storm to pass. That's why you have permits and different clearances and so forth to fly in and out of airports. So I had to fly through the storm. And when I did that, it was one of the most horrific experiences in my life. I went from seeing the sun to seeing shimmers of the sun, hearing the sand scraping against the glass of my aircraft, and I didn't think I was going to make it. But I'm very grateful to God that the sand did not get into the turbochargers on the aircraft, and that's what saved my life. When I landed in Dubai, I had a few problems to fix on the aircraft, changing filters, also at the same time engine inspections and so forth, and it delayed my progress by 2 weeks. So many different challenges, icing. Can you imagine flying on one of your final legs? I departed out of northern Japan to an island called Shemi, Alaska, the second to last island on the Aleutian chain. And could you imagine, as you're flying, you see a massive ice storm. I won't have enough fuel. I'm sorry. They say, oh, I can't turn back. I don't have enough fuel. And then they ask me for my parents' name and phone number. They say, there's no way you're going to make it on the other side. But everything I learned in math and science, I used on that day to save my life with that ice storm. When I landed in Shemi, Alaska, it's an island only 1 mile long. The middle of the North Pacific, well, northern North Pacific. 1 mile long, 2 mile circumference. And when I landed after climbing and descending, I only had about 12 minutes of fuel left in my airplane. And when I landed, after that 10.5-hour flight, I said to myself, thank God for everything I learned in math and science, because it literally saved my life on that flight. So flying around the world, yes, it was easy to talk about and easy to share with people that this is what I wanted to do. But the preparation and skills and all these different things is what actually made it a reality. Now I know everyone is wondering, what am I going to do next? What is Barrington working on next? Of course, you saw the project, our Build and Soar project, where we had students building an aircraft in a record 10 weeks. And then I put my life on the line and flew it on its first test flight, and it flew just fine. I'm here to talk about it. And we've done a number of things in Miami, and we've also done work as well touring with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries throughout the nation. But we've had so many people writing letters, calling us, asking us, well, how can I get involved? How could we do more? And I said, you know what? I really have to step it up in order to impact more individuals. So just recently, I was awarded a major award from National Geographic called the 2012 Emerging Explorer. I partner with National Geographic as well as NASA, and we're preparing to create the world's first flying classroom. This aircraft that you see behind me was originally designed by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. I'm going to transform this jet, it's called a light jet, only seats 9 people. We're going to transform this jet into the world's first flying classroom. Well, what do you mean the world's first flying classroom? How will it work? I'll have the capabilities to communicate with anyone, anywhere in the world, from 45,000 feet. As I conduct experiments, as I'm able to call classrooms from the air, I'll be able to blog with students from the air, and also be able to stream live footage as I'm flying this aircraft. Where will I be flying this aircraft? I'm preparing to fly to all 7 continents around the world. Not only will I fly to all 7 continents around the world, but I'm going to go on 36 expeditions in partnership with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, National Geographic, NASA, and a number of other entities. Now, what is this we're looking at behind us? In the world, it's a toad. But there's a major problem. They lay 12 million eggs at a time. So the 12 million eggs that they lay at a time, once they hatch, they invade local communities in Australia, and I'll be flying to Darwin, Australia. What we're going to do is to hunt down these animals because they're overtaking the population, and these things can kill anything from an alligator to a puppy. If you bite into it, you're dead. And that's really shocked me on the alligator standpoint, and it's scientifically proven that it can kill one. So we're going to fly in with the flying classroom, land, meet with other explorers, hunt down this frog. We're going to catch them, put them in a deep freeze, and then transform them into fertilizer because there are too many of them and it's really damaging the ecosystem. That's just one expedition. Do it through the internet. So anyone will be able to log in from anywhere and to be able to not only follow what I'm doing on these expeditions, but you all will have the opportunity to vote on what I actually do within these expeditions. So you guys might say, oh, we want you to hunt for the king toad in the swamp. And you guys might say, oh, we want you to hunt for the king toad in the forest. This will be a highly interactive curriculum for everyone to participate in. It's never been done before. And I'm very proud to have the opportunity to do this with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and National Geographic. How was my flight? It was very challenging. It was also inspiring to see the amount of students that I had the chance to communicate with that were reading my journals every day. And it was also fulfilling, you know, to be able to do something, especially when for 2.5 years people told me no. I mean, don't think, you know, oh, I said I wanted to fly around the world, and people immediately said, oh, Barrington, we think you can do it. It took me 2.5 years before I got my first flight. Science. I actually did the flight around the world while I was still in college. And I actually finished off after my mom hit me upside the head too many times. I came back and I finished off and actually graduated magna cum laude at Florida Memorial University in Miami. So that was tough. I mean, it was really tough to finish school. You know, I'll be doing speaking engagements, coming back, doing homework and stuff, and talking to professors online. But it's just like anything in life. If something you start, you have to finish. The greatest mistake people make is that they start things and they never finish it. They never finish it. How old am I now? I'm 28 now. Gosh, there's so much meteorology you have to study, you know, to be a pilot and study how systems move and weather fronts and so forth. But there were times where I was locked in and I honestly was just playing a guessing game. I mean, I've flown through, for example, I encountered a monsoon. How many of you guys know what a monsoon is? All right. Take the worst thunderstorm we get here in the United States, multiply it by 10, put it over your city for like days and weeks, and that's what a monsoon is. It just rains really hard, and it's lightning and thunder for hours upon hours. Anyway, one popped up on me as I was flying, and I had mountains below me at 9,100 feet. I was at 21,000 feet, and I got caught in a downdraft, which basically means it pushed my aircraft down, and it pushed me all the way down to 9,200 feet. I almost smacked into the side of a mountain because of that storm. So, I mean, weather plays a significant role in how you plan and do everything. 2 more questions. All right. I'll take one, and then I'll take up there. How did I adjust to the cabin pressure? Great point. I don't know if I really ever got adjusted to it. I mean, you're so focused on just surviving. Like, comfort becomes one of the least things that you focus on as far as necessities. So it does make you a lot more tired. So for example, keeping track of time. To fly around the world, you're switching through time zones like crazy. And by the time I got to Egypt, I actually took off my watch. And I said, when the sun rises, it rises. When it sets, it sets. And that helped me mentally to just, stay focused. And also, not only staying focused, but when just the fatigue, right? Imagine sitting the way you're sitting for 12 hours and you can't get up and walk around. So when I would land in a lot of places, I would have to crawl out on my shoulders, on my elbows, in order to exit the plane because my legs were weak. And it'll take me like 20 minutes to stand back up again. And last question, are there any young ladies? Oh, one over there? I can't see. I'll just go at you since I can't see you.
Did you ever fall asleep?
Huh?
Did you ever
It's a guy's fine. You can actually put.
Did you ever fall asleep?
Did I ever fall asleep in the airplane? No. I dozed off a little bit, but I didn't fall asleep. There were times when you're tired. I'm like, okay, I need to start eating my sunflower seeds again. And but no, I didn't fall asleep. All right, you're waving like crazy. Go ahead. I'm sorry? I can't understand. Why didn't you drink 5-hour energy? Why didn't I drink 5 hours? That's a great point. I'll answer that. During the flight, I was drinking an energy drink, and very popular energy drink. And honestly, what I was doing was so challenging. By the time after I finished Europe, flying through Europe, I stopped drinking it because it no longer had any effect at all on my energy level. Yeah, it was that draining. So, guys, I'll be around. I know there's more questions. I know you guys want to
Talk to him. Don't look at me.
What do you guys want to do? What do you want to do when you grow up?
Be a football player.
Football player? Basketball? In the Army? What are you going to do in the Army?
Serve my nation.
Any scientists? Engineer? Oh, what kind of scientist you want to be? Video gaming and be a chemist is wrong. Wow. Video gaming? That is a really good career. That field is growing. That field is really good. What do you want to do? You're not sure yet? You guys like the presentation? What do you like about it? What's your favorite part? Everything?
My favorite part is
How did you use the bathroom?
That's a great question. How did I use a bathroom? I had to use a special tube. Number 1, no number 2s. All right?
For 12 hours?
Yeah, 12 hours.
Oh my God.
12 hours, yeah. Yeah, it was crazy.
When you go on a plane, like, what kind of food did you get?
Like when you're traveling from country to country, you have to be careful what foods you bring from one country to another. So if I could find a Snickers bar, I'll eat a Snickers bar. But mostly water, Sunflower seeds. That was it. Yeah. Yeah. I lost 30 pounds on the flight. Yeah.
I need to take a plane trip.
You say
I need to get on that flight with him.
I didn't drink any tomato juice during the trip, but this one I actually will. Tomato juice is really good for you.
Sorry.
Really, really good for you, especially when you're flying.
I wanted to know, how was your football career?
My football career is really good. I mean, to have the University of Florida offer me a football scholarship, it was really, really, really cool. It was really, really cool.
If you didn't.
You can't pose for her. You gotta look at your front. You gotta look at your front. So you can't run and pose.
If you wasn't a pilot and was a football star and got drafted to the NFL, what team would you do?
What team would I love to play for? The Cowboys. I'm a big Cowboy fan.
Yes.
Big Cowboy fan. Big time Cowboy fan.
So you know Steve Owen. At least I got one Cowboy.
What other questions you got? That's it? So you enjoyed it?
No, I want to know how you're going to capture the frog and stuff.
Oh, to capture that poisonous frog, you have to catch it from behind. You have to be careful how hard you press down on its back because the poison will shoot in your eye. Yeah, so you have to catch it from behind and then place your thumbs down on it.
You guys can touch it with your hands?
Yeah. Huh? Oh, no, you're still going to get poisoned.
What if it's coming?
No, you're fine. The poison is on its back. That's where the poison No, nothing like that. Because it's not a military aircraft. That goes hundreds of miles. That's how you communicate. All right?
Thank you very much.
Here, but you know, on the floor. BC, exactly. All right, guys, have a good one.